Don't you dare try to steal your sister's credit, my mom's voice thundered through the living room, shaking me to my core. I sat frozen, my hands clenched in frustration, my face flushed with anger. It was Christmas Eve, but the festive atmosphere meant nothing. The trees sparkled with lights, the smell of pine filled the air, and the room was cozy with decorations. Yet, all I could feel was the suffocating weight of their disbelief. I'm Sophie, 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived in the shadow of my younger sister, Olivia. In our parents' eyes, Olivia could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I seemed to exist solely as their scapegoat. This time, though, their blind favoritism wasn't just hurtful, it was unjust. Since July, I'd been quietly sending money to help my parents with their bills, sacrificing my own comfort to support them. Yet Olivia had somehow taken all the credit, and worse, my parents fully believed her. When I finally tried to explain that I was the one helping them financially, my mom's furious response made it clear she didn't believe a word I said. The accusation cut deep, leaving me speechless and teetering between anger and despair. My cousin Na, who had been quietly observing the entire scene from the corner, broke the silence. "Hold on," she said sharply, her voice carrying an edge of logic that sliced through the tension. "How do you know Olivia is actually the one sending the money? Have you seen any proof?" The room went still as my parents turned to Na in disbelief. My dad waved his hand dismissively. "Olivia wouldn't lie about something like this. She's always been the responsible one." That word, responsible, stabbed at me. I had gone without countless luxuries, skipped outings with friends, and worked extra hours just to send them money every month. Yet here they were, dismissing my efforts and worshipping Olivia like she was their savior. Every sacrifice I had made was being erased, replaced by Olivia's convenient lies. Before I could respond, the front door opened and Olivia strolled in, the picture of innocence. A bag of candy swung from her hand, and her bright smile was infuriatingly carefree. "What's going on?" she asked cheerfully, her eyes scanning the room and quickly locking on to the tension in our faces. "You need to explain to your sister," Mom said, her voice shaking as she pointed at me. "She's trying to take credit for helping us financially, when we all know it's been you." Olivia's smile faltered for just a moment, her eyes darting between me, Na, and Mom. Then, as if flipping a switch, she plastered on her most angelic expression. "Oh, Mom," she said with a light laugh, putting the candy on the counter. "I think Sophie just misunderstood. I didn't want to make a big deal about it, but you know I've been handling this for months. I didn't want to bother her with it." Her fake concern was like a slap in the face. Every word dripped with calculated sweetness, designed to manipulate. My fists clenched tighter, my nails digging into my palms as I tried to steady my breathing. Na crossed her arms, her sharp eyes narrowing as she studied Olivia, clearly not buying the act. Olivia's face turned pale as she tried to snatch her phone back, but Na blocked her hand. "Hold on," Na said firmly, taking the phone from me. "Let me take a closer look." She scrolled through the receipts, her eyes narrowing with each passing second. Then, she turned the phone toward me and pointed at the transaction dates. "Look at this," Na said, her voice calm but laced with accusation. "The dates on these transfers don't even match the months Mom and Dad said they got the money. And the amounts? They're rounded, not the exact figures your parents mentioned." Olivia's composure cracked, her defensiveness flaring as she tried to explain. "Maybe the app updated differently. Or maybe the bank made an error. These are real, okay?" Her voice was frantic, but the panic in her eyes gave her away. "No, Olivia," I said, stepping closer. My voice was steady now, filled with the resolve I'd built up over months of being dismissed. "You forged these, didn't you? You've been riding on my sacrifices while taking all the credit. Why, Olivia? Was the truth too inconvenient for your perfect image?" Olivia opened her mouth to argue, but my mom interrupted, her face ashen. "Olivia," she said quietly, her tone a mix of disbelief and anger. "Is this true? Did you lie to us?" Olivia hesitated for a moment too long, her confidence crumbling as the weight of the evidence bore down on her. I didn't think it was a big deal," she finally blurted out. "Sophie has always been the one trying to prove herself. I thought it would, I don't know, even things out a little. You've always expected so much more from me." Her admission hung in the air like a bomb. "Even things out?" My dad's voice was low but seething. "Olivia, this isn't about expectations. This is about trust. Sophie has been sacrificing for us, and you've been stealing her credit? That's beyond selfish. It's cruel." My mom looked at me, tears welling in her eyes. "Sophie, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We should have believed you. We should have asked for proof." Her apology stirred a mix of relief and sadness in me. "I just wanted you to see me," I said softly, my voice breaking. "To acknowledge what I've been doing for you."
Nah.
Still holding Olivia's phone, handed it back to her with a cold glare. "You owe Sophie more than an apology, Olivia. You owe her the truth." For the first time that evening, Olivia looked genuinely ashamed. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, unable to find the words. The room felt heavy with the tension of everything left unsaid. But as I looked at my parents, and even Olivia, I realized that this moment, however painful, was a step toward finally breaking the toxic dynamic that had defined our family for so long. "Let's get one thing straight," I said, my voice firm. "I'm done being the family's invisible backbone. If you want my help, you'll have to start treating me with the respect I deserve." For the first time in years, my parents nodded in agreement. And Olivia? She stayed silent, but I could tell my words had hit her harder than anything else could have. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening in frustration. Of all the times for this to happen, it had to be now. It felt like the universe itself was conspiring to make me look like a fool. Olivia's smug face and my dad's ultimatum replayed in my mind, fueling my anger. I needed proof, something indisputable to vindicate myself. Then it hit me. The email receipts. Every month, when I sent the money, I got a confirmation email from the bank. Frantically, I opened my email app, scrolling through my inbox with trembling fingers. My heart raced as I typed "bank transfer confirmation" into the search bar. And there they were. A neat list of emails dating back to July, each showing the exact amount sent to my parents. My breath caught in my throat as relief and vindication washed over me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't lying. I hadn't spent months tightening my budget and sacrificing little joys for nothing. I had done this. But the relief was quickly replaced by fury. How dare Olivia take credit for my sacrifices? How could my parents dismiss me so easily without even asking for proof? Without thinking, I forwarded every email to my parents with a simple message. "This is the truth. Merry Christmas." After hitting send, I sat back in the booth, staring out the window at the quiet, snowy street. My fingers were still trembling, but my mind felt clearer now. Whether they acknowledged it or not, the truth was out there. The coffee shop buzzed softly around me, the scent of espresso and pastries filling the air. I didn't know what to do next. A part of me wanted to drive back, storm through the door, and confront them with the evidence. Another part of me wanted to keep driving, leave it all behind, and never look back. As I stared at the emails on my screen, my phone buzzed. A reply. It was from my mom. "We'll talk about this tomorrow. Come back inside." Her words were brief, but felt like a crack in the wall of doubt and dismissal. Still, I wasn't ready to face them again. Not yet. Instead, I ordered a coffee, wrapped my hands around the warm cup, and let the quiet of the shop soothe me. Tomorrow would come, and with it, the reckoning. I nodded, the weight of Na's words settling over me. Tomorrow could be the turning point. But it wasn't just about exposing Olivia. It was about reclaiming my voice in a family that had dismissed me for too long. "I'll do it," I said firmly. "But it has to be undeniable. I need everything in order, bank statements, screenshots, the email confirmations. If the app works tomorrow, they won't be able to ignore the truth." Na reached out and placed a reassuring hand on my arm. "You've got this, Sophie. Just stay calm." The truth will come out, and when it does, they'll have no choice but to listen. That night, I stayed at Na's house, finally allowing myself to rest. Her words echoed in my mind, giving me a sliver of hope. I wasn't walking this path alone anymore. The next morning, I woke up early, my heart pounding as I checked my phone. The app was finally working. Relief washed over me as I pulled up the bank transactions. There they were, every payment I'd made to my parents since July, neatly listed with timestamps and amounts. I forwarded the statements to my email, printed them at Na's house, and tucked the evidence into a folder. This was it. Ready? Na asked as I prepared to leave. As ready as I'll ever be, I said. We drove to my parents' house together. The snow-covered streets sparkled under the morning sun, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in my heart. By the time we arrived, the house was already bustling with activity. Laughter and holiday music spilled out as relatives greeted each other warmly. I stepped inside, clutching the folder tightly. Olivia was there, her smile as bright and fake as ever. She shot me a look that could freeze fire, but I ignored her, focusing instead on my parents. "Good morning, Sophie," my mom said stiffly, as if last night hadn't happened. I took a deep breath. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. "All of us." The room quieted as the tension settled in. Na stood by my side, her presence a silent show of support. I placed the folder on the coffee table and opened it, revealing the printed bank statements. "These are the payments I've been making to you since July," I said, my voice louder now. "Every month, without fail. You can see the amounts, the dates, and the account details." My mom and dad leaned in, their expressions shifting from confusion to shock as they scanned the papers. Olivia's face drained of color, her confident smirk replaced with panic. "This is proof," I continued, locking eyes with Olivia. "You've been lying to them, taking credit for something you didn't do." "Why, Olivia? Was it worth it?" Olivia stammered, searching for an excuse. I didn't mean." "Didn't mean what?" Na cut in, her tone sharp. "Didn't mean to lie? Didn't mean to humiliate Sophie? Or didn't mean to get caught?" The room erupted into whispers and gasps as my parents turned to Olivia, their faces a mix of disappointment and anger. "Olivia," my dad said, his voice low and controlled. "Is this true?" She opened her mouth to respond but closed it again, realizing there was no way out. "Fine," she spat, her tone defiant. "Yes, I let you think it was me. But does it really matter? The bills got paid, didn't they?" My mom's jaw dropped. "It matters," she said firmly. "You lied to us. You let us push Sophie aside while you basked in the credit. How could you?" Olivia tried to argue, but my dad cut her off. "Enough. Sophie, we owe you an apology. We should have believed you." Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them back. "I've been trying to prove myself to you my whole life," I said softly. "I'm done doing that. If you can't see my worth without me having to fight for it, that's on you." The room fell silent as my words sank in. For the first time, my parents looked truly remorseful. Olivia, on the other hand, stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Na squeezed my hand. "You did it," she whispered. Christmas Day continued, but it was different now. My parents made an effort to include me, to listen and show their appreciation. It didn't erase the years of pain, but it was a start. As the sun set, I stood by the window, watching the snow fall. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. The truth had finally come out, and with it, I had reclaimed my voice. Later that afternoon, with the email confirmations saved to my phone and printed out for extra backup, I drove to my parents' house. Na came along for support, her presence a reassuring anchor. The streets were quiet, the snow falling softly, but inside, my heart was pounding. When I stepped through the door, the festive atmosphere hit me like a wall. The sound of holiday music and laughter from the living room felt like a mockery of the tension boiling inside me. My parents greeted me cautiously, clearly still upset from the night before, while Olivia sat on the couch, sipping cocoa and smiling like the cat that ate the canary. I wasted no time. "We need to talk," I said firmly, my voice cutting through the room's chatter. Everyone fell silent, their eyes turning toward me. Again, Sophie? My mom sighed, already exasperated. Can't we just have a peaceful Christmas? We will, I replied, holding up the folder of emails. But first, I need to clear something up. Olivia's smug expression faltered as I walked over to the coffee table and placed the printed emails in front of my parents. These are confirmation emails from my bank, showing every single transfer I've made to your account since July. Every payment. Every amount. My dad picked up the papers, his eyes scanning the evidence. My mom leaned over, her brow furrowing as she read. The room was silent except for the faint rustle of the papers. This can't be right, my mom murmured, her voice shaky. She looked up at Olivia. You said you were sending the money. Why would Sophie have these emails? Olivia stammered, her face pale. I don't know. Maybe she faked them. People can do that, you know. Na stepped forward, her tone sharp. Oh, come on, Olivia. You really think Sophie went through all that trouble to fake emails? You're the one who lied, and now you're caught. My dad set the papers down, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. Olivia, he said, his voice cold. Is this true? Have you been lying to us? I was trying to protect you, Olivia blurted, her voice rising. I thought if you knew Sophie was struggling, you'd worry too much. I was just trying to help. Help. I snapped, my frustration spilling over. You weren't helping anyone but yourself, Olivia. You let them believe you were the one supporting them, while I sacrificed so much to make sure they were okay. Do you have any idea how that feels? My mom looked between us, her face etched with guilt. Sophie, she began, her voice soft. Why didn't you just tell us from the start? I tried, I said, tears threatening to spill. But every time I spoke up, you brushed me aside or assumed Olivia was the one doing the right thing. You never gave me a chance. The weight of my words hung in the air. My dad turned to Olivia, his tone stern. You owe your sister an apology, Olivia. And you owe us an explanation for why you thought this was okay. Olivia crossed her arms, pouting like a child caught stealing candy. Fine, she muttered. I'm sorry. But her apology felt hollow, and I wasn't ready to let it go. You're not just apologizing to me, I said. You're apologizing to them for lying and to me for taking credit for what I did. And you're going to own up to it in front of everyone here. The room stayed silent for a long moment before Olivia mumbled another half-hearted apology. My parents, clearly shaken, turned their attention to me, their regret evident. Sophie. My dad said quietly, we're sorry. We should have trusted you more. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Hearing those words felt like a weight lifting off my chest. It didn't erase the pain, but it was a start. As the rest of the family arrived, the mood shifted. Olivia stayed quiet, avoiding everyone's gaze, while my parents made a genuine effort to include me in conversations and thank me for my contributions. Na stuck by my side, her presence a constant reminder that I wasn't alone. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Olivia's lies had been exposed, and I had finally reclaimed my place in my family, not as the afterthought, but as someone who mattered. The living room buzzed with festive energy as relatives exchanged hugs and laughter, but I couldn't fully relax. I clutched my phone tightly in my hand, the email confirmations a silent but powerful shield against Olivia's lies. Na stayed close, giving me reassuring glances, while Olivia flitted around, soaking up the attention like nothing was wrong. When dinner was called, we all gathered around the long dining table. Plates piled high with turkey, mashed potatoes, and casseroles were passed around as cheerful chatter filled the room. My parents sat at the head of the table, with Olivia to their right, her place of honor, and me seated further down. Na was next to me, her presence a steadying force. As the meal progressed, I waited for the right moment. It didn't take long. Olivia, as expected, couldn't resist stirring the pot. You know, she said, setting her fork down with an air of self-satisfaction, I just love seeing how happy Mom and Dad are this Christmas. It makes all the sacrifices I've made for them feel worth it. The table grew quiet, and everyone turned to Olivia with admiration. "You've always been so generous, Olivia," Aunt Helen said, nodding approvingly. "Not everyone would go out of their way to support their parents like you have." Olivia gave a modest shrug, but her smug smile betrayed her. I took a deep breath and straightened my shoulders. "Actually," I said, my voice clear and calm, "there's something I need to clarify about that." Olivia froze, her smile faltering as she shot me a warning glare. "Sophie," she said sweetly, "let's not ruin the mood, okay?" "I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said, keeping my tone even. "I just think it's important that everyone knows the truth." All eyes were on me now. I could feel the tension rising, but I didn't falter. Pulling out my phone, I opened the email confirmations and set it on the table for everyone to see. "These are bank confirmations of every transfer I've made to Mom and Dad's account since July," I said, sliding the phone toward my parents. "Every payment. Every month." The room was silent as my mom picked up the phone, her brow furrowing as she read through the emails. My dad leaned over to look, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. "This can't be," my mom murmured, scrolling through the dates and amounts. "These are from Sophie's account." "That's impossible," Olivia snapped, her voice rising. "She's lying. She must have faked those emails." Na spoke up, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Oh, come on, Olivia. You seriously expect us to believe Sophie faked months of bank records just to make you look bad?" My dad turned to Olivia, his eyes narrowing. "Is this true?" he demanded. "Did you lie about sending us money?" Olivia stammered, her confident facade crumbling. I just wanted to help keep things simple," she said weakly. "I didn't think it would turn into all this." My mom's face flushed with anger. "You've been lying to us this whole time? Letting us believe you were the one helping us, while Sophie," her voice broke, and she turned to me, guilt written all over her face. "Oh, Sophie, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you." "It's not about the apology," I said quietly, though my voice wavered. "It's about being honest. I've been doing my best to help, and I just wanted you to see that." The room fell into an uneasy silence. Olivia sat rigid in her chair, avoiding everyone's gaze, while my parents looked at me with a mix of regret and shame. Na leaned over and whispered, "Looks like you won this round." It didn't feel like a victory, not really. But as the meal continued, with Olivia unusually quiet and my parents making a visible effort to include me in the conversation, I felt something shift. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. And for now, that was enough. I seized the opportunity, locking eyes with my dad. "Then let's settle it right now. Open your account on my phone or Na's. We'll pull up your bank statement and cross-check the transfers." The room went quiet, the tension thick as everyone turned to my parents. My dad hesitated, clearly torn, while my mom looked to Olivia, who was now visibly panicking. "Dad," I pressed, my voice steady but firm. "If Olivia's telling the truth, this will clear everything up. If she's not, well, you'll finally see what's been happening." Olivia jumped in, her voice sharper now. "Oh, come on, Sophie. What's the point of all this? It's Christmas. Why are you trying to ruin the day for everyone?" "I'm not ruining anything," I said, my gaze fixed on her. "I'm just tired of being called a liar when I have nothing to hide." Na stepped forward, holding out her phone. "Uncle, we can use mine if you want. It'll only take a second." My dad sighed heavily, clearly uncomfortable, but he nodded. He took Na's phone, logged into the bank account, and pulled up the statement. As he scrolled, the color drained from his face. "There it is," he said quietly, pointing to a series of transactions. "Every month, like clockwork. Sophie's name is on all of them." My mom leaned over to look, her face twisting in confusion. "But Olivia said." "She lied," Na said bluntly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "And now we all know." The silence that followed was deafening. My relatives exchanged shocked glances, some looking at Olivia with disbelief, others turning to me with guilt in their eyes. Olivia's face flushed red as she stammered. I didn't mean to lie. I thought. You thought what? I interrupted, my voice rising. That you could take credit for my hard work? That you could make me look like the selfish one while you basked in praise? Is that it, Olivia? She had no answer. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a look of pure embarrassment. My mom reached for my hand, her voice shaky. Sophie, I'm so sorry. We should have listened to you. The apology felt hollow, but I forced myself to nod. It's not just about listening to me, Mom. It's about trusting me. I've been trying to help, but it feels like no matter what I do, it's never good enough compared to Olivia. My dad sighed, his expression heavy with regret. You're right, Sophie. We let her take advantage of us. And of you. That won't happen again. I looked at my sister one last time. Her head hung low as the weight of her lies settled in. I'm done being in your shadow, Olivia, I said firmly. This ends today. With that, I sat back down, finally feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. The room was still tense, but for the first time, I felt like I'd truly been heard. Christmas wasn't what I'd hoped it would be, but it marked a turning point, a day when the truth finally came to light. I looked at them, their faces heavy with guilt and remorse. For a moment, I wanted to let my anger pour out, to tell them how hurt I'd been. But seeing them now, truly understanding the weight of their mistake, I knew that would only make things worse. I appreciate the apology, I said quietly, though my voice wavered. But this isn't the first time I've felt invisible in this family. It's always been Olivia, the responsible one, the perfect one. And me? No matter what I do, it's never enough. My mom's eyes filled with tears, and my dad looked down, shame etched across his face. We didn't realize, my mom started, her voice trembling. We didn't see how much we were hurting you. Well, now you know, I said, my tone firm but not cruel. But knowing isn't enough. You need to show me that things will change. My dad stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. You're right, Sophie. We let ourselves get caught up in the image Olivia painted, and we didn't question it. That's on us. But we'll make it right. You've done so much for this family, and from now on, we'll give you the respect you deserve. My mom nodded, wiping away her tears. We'll start by acknowledging what you've done for us. Everyone will know it was you who helped us when we needed it most. We'll never take you for granted again. I took a deep breath, their words offering some comfort, but not erasing the hurt. It's going to take time for me to trust that things will change, I admitted. That's fair, my dad said solemnly. We'll prove it to you. Sophie, you have my word. For the first time in what felt like forever, I saw a glimmer of hope in their eyes, a genuine desire to mend the rift that had grown between us. The rest of the evening passed quietly. My parents made a point to share the truth with the remaining family members who hadn't yet left, apologizing to me in front of everyone. While it didn't erase the pain, it was a step toward healing. As I drove back to Na's house that night, I reflected on everything that had happened. Olivia's betrayal had cut deep, but it had also forced my parents to confront their biases and see me for who I truly was. The road to rebuilding my relationship with them would be long, but for the first time in years, I felt like there was a chance for real change. And this time, I wasn't going to let myself be overshadowed. My mom nodded again, her tears falling silently as she clasped her hands together. We understand, Sophie, she said softly. We've hurt you deeply, and we can't undo that. But we'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I let out a shaky breath, the tension in my chest easing ever so slightly. I need time, I said, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. Time to see if things really can change. Both my parents nodded, their regret palpable. For the first time in years, I felt like they truly saw me, not as a shadow of Olivia, but as someone deserving of their respect and acknowledgement. We sat together in silence, the weight of the evening settling around us. The house was quiet now, the festive glow of the Christmas lights casting a faint warmth over the room. It wasn't the Christmas I'd envisioned, but it was a start. For once, the truth was out in the open, And I wasn't the scapegoat. That, at least, was something to hold on to.